Welcome to ES Ascension News, the Solar Sacrum. Dear Ascending Family, since the bifurcation of timelines began last year, the universal cosmic clock is undergoing a 0-point recalibration throughout each of the planetary chains that are a part of our solar system's evolution. The solar system recalibration to 0 point is changing the 4 main directions of the true north, south, east, and west nodes as coordinate location points within the constellations. This is saying the constellations that are directly a part of the multiple millions of stellar bodies that interact with our planet are changing distance and moving position from what may be considered a gravitational fixed point in time. These constellation coordinate points are time vectors responsible for electromagnetic energy placement within spin points, counterclockwise and clockwise spin, as well as rotational axis. This controls the rate of spin of electrons, protons, and neutrons that exist in both matter and antimatter. The rate of spin and axis of rotation at microscopic scales are the quantum mechanics which govern the measurement of time and space in our harmonic universe. This year, our planet will access sequential spirals of 0-point consciousness sourcing from the corridors of the God worlds, the 7 higher heaven universes. The universal founder source fields are opening to us in such way that is omnidirectional. This means we are able to freely access the eternal living light, which illuminates and brings to the surface where all shadow and falsity has remained hidden. This is a very big year in the evolutionary direction of ascension for humanity and the planet. Many lives will be changed permanently. During this cycle, the founders are altering the holographic structure of the universal tree of life, and that recalibration to 0 point impacts our personal tree of life. Everything contained in the instruction set is recorded in our personal tree of life, which is our spiritual consciousness blueprint. Those of us on the ascension timeline have begun to experience deep alterations to our second internal layers, the areas of the sacral, sexual, chakras, and the second dimensional blueprint of our personal tree of life. The universal founder gold ray of the Rishik suns is sequentially merging into the second dimensional gates and timelines of origin of our planetary consciousness field. The universal gold ray is a solar principle, which is completely shifting these areas from the control of lunar-based forces, otherwise known as moon chain lineages, into solar-based forces. As the quarantines are lifted beyond the solar system ring pass knot in the future time field, those holding enough light quotient are undergoing a complete reconfiguration of their sacral energy centers from lunar influence to solar influences. This is the beginning stages of the birth of the Solar Sacrum for human beings on the earth. A second dimensional fiber optic upgrade. The process of synchronization with the ascending spiral of time is based upon this personal tree of life reconfiguration and its result of solar light upgrade in the sacral sexual energy centers. During this year, we will be facing the issues required to heal our light body in our sacral sex center, which impacts our entire hara complex and crystal body. For our monadic body to hold the Avatar Christos liquid light within the seat of our hara complex, our sacral sex centers must be healed into small plasmic solar suns. Many of us will experience direct spiritual sexual healing and rejuvenation to our sexual organs this year during the sleeping state. This is a part of the aurora re-encryption of our elemental emotional body, which shifts our lower chakra centers from carbon density resonance to silica-based resonance. Silica is formed as a crystalline structure which allows a higher resonating quality of light and frequency transference. Currently, most fiber optics that transmit telecommunication over extremely long distances is made from silica. This is similar to our elemental bodies getting a fiber optic telecommunication upgrade. As we undergo this reconfiguration, this has a direct implication to our relationships, marriages, sexual intimates, and everything imaginable that is directly related to our sexual energies. This reconfiguration completely shifts our second dimensional elemental body and all of our inner space chakra centers. The elemental emotional body is the part of the light body which opens into the inner quantum realms of our consciousness. This may be a difficult time for those feeling pushed into inquiring on the nature of our deep sexual urges and energies and exploring how we feel about ourselves, our partners, and others in this context. In our current society, we have been wounded terribly to feel ashamed, guilty, or scared of our sexuality, especially in coming to terms with the true nature of its sacred purpose. There is a tremendous underbelly of dark sexual manipulation through designed secrecy programs, which is promoted to keep humans sexually miserable and marriages emotionally unbearable. This year, we will be facing the sexual misery mind control programs and their influence upon us from the past in order to terminate their influence on us in the future. Once we comprehend the sexual spiritual basis that connects us directly with God, then we know we have an ethical responsibility to heal and take care of our bodies' sacred, sexual, and creative energies. When we do not know how to lovingly care for our sexual organs and sexual energies, we may feel painfully confused about self-love and self-acceptance. This results in many sexual distortions as well as sexually transmitted diseases, which impact our psycho-emotional state and well-being. As we move into the reconfiguration of our sexual energy center from lunar control into the solar sacrum, we must come face to face with our buried sexual fears and deepest instinctual motivations in raw transparency. This is happening for both genders. Although males and females may have unique sexual issues to bring to the surface, this healing event will remove the walls of separation between the sexes. This is an incredible spiritual healing opportunity for those who consciously participate and desire truly loving sacred unions. Shedding the lunar woman. Humanity has been in a dark cycle of separation, which dedicated the female principle as made in the image of the moon goddess, as the stages of being a woman were matched to the shadowy reflections and phases of lunar light, being equated to the secondary reflection of the male solar light was the setup for descending the female image to be linked with monsters of darkness and hidden mystery, where the seeds of misogyny on earth began. The fear of the spiritual womb power inherent in females was robbed through rape, humiliation, and menstrual disgrace. These fears feed the dark witch female archetypes, such as the Black Widow Mother, promoted by voodoo superstitions in the moon chain lineages. This hell-spawn mother would eat her young and decapitate her husband if she was not put in her place, kept barefoot and pregnant and commandeered by her husband. The fear of menstruation as evil, dirty, or a punishment for sin, the fears of the female sexual organs swallowing up the male, is still massively fueled by the dark ignorance promoted to subjugate women to the status of breeders or prostitutes. In many places in the world today, the only purpose in life women are told they are good for is as a broodmare or for the whims of male pleasure. With the solar sacrum upgrade, the female principle and instinctual emotional body within us must learn to be illuminated from within the radiant light of solar forces. The moon represents the mirror, which reflects the mysteries of God as well as the hidden shadow side of the solar light. The lunar force hides what we cannot see inside ourselves. Many times, we may refuse to face our inner shadow from the primal spiritual fear of falling into the watery abyss of dark nothingness. Now, in this cycle, we will see what was buried as our sacral center is gradually filled with the radiance of solar light. This means that many moon-based rituals that are directly associated and implicated as a part of the female principle are changing their meaning now. This may create confusion or pain in women as they come to the realization of the necessity to leave behind moon-based rituals. The sense of the connection to the moon goddess and its mythos will begin to naturally fall away as one listens to the earth. Many women and men have been taught to feel empowered through the many ancient lunar teachings of the cycles from the moon lineages, as those who deeply connected with the moon as a source of ritual may begin to feel estranged from the past ceremonies which once had felt empowering and supportive. It is time for the high priestess to enter between the pillars at the Temple of Solomon, embodied with a full wedded garment of light, forever dissolving the crescent moon and shadows underneath her feet. For she is the wife of the Lamb of God, and it is her destiny to build the holy architecture of the New Jerusalem on earth in perfect love and sacred marriage with her husband. We are leaving the lunar influence behind, as these lineages have been inherently responsible for gender separation and sexual schism, which stole humanity's right and ability to live in sacred spiritual marriage. The moon chain lineage's history with the earth hold the hidden meaning behind the sexual misery program and the main reason for extremely mismatched and unhappy marital relations promoted upon the human race. The moon chain lineages entered this planet through the Asian gates, and as such, the epicenter of these moon chain belief systems will be highly concentrated in the cultural beliefs observed in the Asian regions of our planet, such as China, India, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia. The following summation is the hidden historical reason contributing to these sexual distortions and why humanity must depart from the lunar cycle and the influence of the moon chain lines. Moon chain beings. Moon chain beings are soulless entities, like the Greys and Zetas that have been engineered or cloned by the Anunnaki, Draconian, Necromatons, those whom have placed these beings as workers on various planets. Moon chain lineages are also cast-offs from other cycles of evolution between multiple planets in our solar system. These are beings that were not rehabilitated in past cycles when they lost their capacity to incarnate as a human soul. The Anunnaki have shaped this planet in the last 50,000 years as a type of prison for undesirables, allowing Orion groups to send their criminals from other planets to incarnate on the Earth. For this reason, the Earth became a type of galactic way station for wanderers. The moon chain lineages have been directly involved, both karmically and technologically, with purposely creating the sexual misery program in the human race during this dark age. One reason is that the human sexual energies, which connect into the soul-body matrix, are far the easiest to manipulate and have a high yield of energy to harvest from. Soulless entities require an external energy source to exist for long periods of time, and as such, they harvest human and planetary life force energy. Some of these soulless entities became the housing for the collective spirit of Luciferian forces or for satanic forces. This is what it means when the term Luciferian Anunnaki or Satanic Draconian is used as a descriptor. It defines a being that has made a choice at some point from actions taken that allowed an agreement with spiritual forces of those levels of consciousness to use or possess the body and the entity. These anti-life energies purposely distort through patriarchal domination mind control, which severely damages the natural energetic balance that exists between the male and female principle. This has emotionally devastated and spiritually stunted all human beings to some extent. Some of the most traumatizing events are those painful memories of distortions existing between men and women being forced to sexually abuse each other over and over again. These gender principle distortions have been used to propagate some of the deepest levels of spiritual abuse, sexual misery that could occur to a race of beings. For this reason, there is an unconscious terror in accessing the heart center because the soul wound is so painful for so many on the earth. Sexual misery programs. In order to separate humanity from accessing true sacred marriage during the course of natural spiritual development towards hierogamic divine union, the NRG grids promote sexual misery mind control, which is designed to influence spiritual disconnection through all means sexual. The NRG grid is supervised by the Anunnaki, whom also direct its energetic resources and harvest to the moon chains that are working for them. The sexual misery program is to intentionally distort, manipulate, and abuse the creative life force of the sexual energies, therefore abuse the spiritual body energies in all human beings incarnated on this planet. Upon hijack of these second-dimensional to fourth-dimensional energy centers, false white light, false Christ consciousness grids were used on this planet from the astral plane to misguide and trap human beings' spiritual energies. The damage promoted in these lower centers also resulted in emotional distortions and extreme aberrant accumulated energies in the lower bodily energy centers of the collective. This was taken advantage of by the negative aliens or the Antichrist spirits to splinter the collective soul energy, rather than integrate and heal them through controlling and abusing humanity's sexual energies. By promoting painful distortions around the sexual act, such as through religion, judgment, and misogyny, gender roles, and corrupting our relationship to our mother and father parent, our race descended into sexual misery and marital incompatibility. This is known as the sexual misery program, propagated and hierarchically distributed by the moon chain lunar lineages. These are lineages that are not indigenous to the earth, but came to extra-dimensional control through the process of invasion, deception, and parasitism. There are multiple layers of inorganic architecture and mind control that have been artificially created to control, deceive, separate, confuse, torture, and steal human beings' sexual life force, this is a violation against the human soul. These violations wound the soul body, as the trauma level in such events as sexual torture fragment the soul into near destruction. When the soul fragments from any kind of intense trauma, it shuts down the soul connection. It shuts down the heart connection and systematically splinters the layers of the mental bodies. If this is not healed or corrected, the soul fragments are unable to embody and exist in fragments strewn across the planetary consciousness grids. The physical result is a disconnected soul from its incarnated human body. This means the soul is outside of the physical self, may exist in fragments rather than energetically integrated to be physically embodied. This spiritual disconnection is the result of most all human diseases, brain dysfunction, and related psycho-emotional distortions, many that are clinical references to schizoid, narcissism, and psychopathy. Once a soul is fragmented, the body is very easy to control through addiction and or possessible by reversal life force. Obviously, to feed the chain of hungry ghosts, to possess a human body in order to gain access into its energetic source is desirable for them. One way to incite influences that will shape belief systems for possession is to use mind control on the human population. One main collective mind control archetype that is used to reverse the Christos female attribute was through the holographic insert use of the Princess Code. The Princess Code, or Reversal Mother Forces. To instigate the sexual misery mind control program, archetypal filters to control the minds of the collective were installed in the planetary consciousness. The Princess Code is a collective planetary archetype filter that was inserted technologically by the negative alien agenda into human consciousness to purposely distort the female principle and female gender roles. As a result, this archetype can also be referred to as stemming from the dark female or the dark mother forces that are manipulated by both satanic and Luciferian spirits in their ritual alchemy to impose their future probability and timeline upon the current earth consciousness. The dark female archetype and reversal female forces can manifest within a male body and as well a female body. This is designed to distort the female spiritual principle in both men and women. The unhealed cellular memories in the timelines that are used to feed this false female dark mother archetype on Earth are related to the painful histories of Tiamat. This is a false mother consciousness program designed to inflict pain and suffering upon the Earth. When the negative alien agenda invaded the planet during the Atlantean cycle, the consciousness program installed in the planetary mind was designed to enslave the inhabitants of the planet based in Orion patriarchal domination through a persistent strategy of shaping mind control through archontic deception behaviors. This began the planet's dark age of misogyny. The Orion group was well aware that to manifest creation, they require both male and female consciousness counterparts to merge with each other. Just as the reversal electrons were manipulating the male mind principle into controlled tyrannical thoughts, the protons were also manipulated at the subatomic levels, changing chemical elements to compact down the female heart-feeling principle energies into the lower underworld dimensions. To keep the reversal mother energy and heart trapped in the lower dimensions, the Princess Code hologram was installed at the atomic level to be used by the negative alien forces as the counterpart to the controllers for the false king of tyranny. The false king of tyranny archetype mates with the Princess Code, who grows into adulthood into the Ice Queen archetype in order to maintain the control through the power elite. And their belief systems are promoted throughout media, society, and as an inherent part of grooming both boys and girls to adopt this abusive behavior and belief system into adulthood. This dysfunction further promotes the sexual misery program and the Moloch-related soul abuse, and so that children will not grow into well-balanced adults capable of creating truly loving, healthy, and happy spiritual marriages. Sexual misery manifests genetic distortions, which are generally known as sexually transmitted diseases, and other types of genetic-related abnormalities. Princess Code Narcissistic Profile. This collective archetypal identity filter is used to manipulate both males and females in the instinctual second-dimensional body. In its extreme, ego-dominating identity, this dark female archetype becomes a thought form possession, which is used for satanic-based manipulation. One may notice that in Western culture, all the little girls are conditioned to react and adore pink, princess-related images, cartoons, and toys. In the Asian culture, girls are conditioned to westernized designer labels, sexualized cartoons, pigtails, and stuffed toys. Generally, this teenage princess image is used to titillate white Western men. This princess conditioning begins as early as possible, even as a baby. Once the princess archetype is conditioned to the point of ego identification, the following beliefs and behaviors are reinforced in a child into adulthood. Number 1, astral fantasy that the knight in shining armor will ride his white horse and will sweep her off her feet, saving her from doom, poverty, low status, and unhappiness. Number 2, superior beliefs that she is a princess and then deserves as a queen. Thus, she makes demands of self-entitled treatment and expectations. Number 3, beliefs she has to manipulate the male target of her knight fantasy in order to marry her, and then he will become her king. Sexual manipulation, seduction, and deception to get power or material goods are common. Number 4, generally feels that she is deserving of wealth, jewels, or status symbols, and will blame or use others to get these designer material goods. Number 5, holds a general disregard for others, even those she is close with, in the relentless pursuit of her storybook fantasy and personal goals. Number 6, cosmetic surgery or extreme manipulation methods to make her appear to be a beautiful princess to others. Number 7, spin doctors the reality by creating self-promotion stories that suit her image of perfection and appearance, or her image based on a reality bubble which is built upon self-delusion and deception. Number 8, narcissism through emotional fracturing and emotional immaturity is masking her outward superiority complex and potentially tantrums, hysterics, and upheavals. Number 9, refuses to listen to accurate assessment or facts and may lash out when her delusion or reality bubble is being threatened. Number 10, the key themes of the archetypes of the Princess Code are manipulator, seducer, Jezebel, femme fatale, fantasizer, victim-victimizer, lasher, slasher, guilt trip punisher, man-eater, with strings attached, and is conditional. These destructive ego behaviors are the basis of promoting severe addiction, sexual disconnection, and narcissism, which are disastrous emotional habits when desiring to create a happy, healthy marriage, relationship, or family unit based on love and trust. When highly habitualized, it is very difficult for the female to change her sense of identity without comprehending the emotional damage it is creating in her life and in others' lives. The inner addictive void creates a never-ending cycle of emptiness, of great longing and loneliness, which feeds into the mind control manipulation of the moon chain lines. As an example, at this time, the Asian grids are feeding Princess Code as well as sexual robot fantasies to disconnect men and women from intimacy and heart-based relations. Anime and manga violent cartoons have extensive architecture powering into the NRG networks as a battery source. These items are being exploited into shaping trends and shaping beliefs, which create massive deviations that are imbalanced and unhealthy to the human being, who is unaware they are being manipulated through these mind control systems. During this time, many young Asian girls have decided to have radical cosmetic surgery on their features to appear like their favorite or adored anime or manga cartoon character. Affluent teenage girls are asking their parents for elective breast and vaginal surgeries, while their sisters in Muslim countries are having their sexual organs forcibly mutilated from barbaric religious beliefs. Both of these destructive acts are designed for sexual genital mutilation, which distorts the natural vital energies from running harmoniously in the sexual organs and is influenced by the Princess Code. Tiamat, the wounded goddess. The phantom energy generated from the exploded planet Tiamat is used to power up female reversal archetypes on our planet, which is used by the moon chain forces such as the Princess Code. Tiamat is the collective consciousness of the dark goddess, wounded, enslaved, and abused female archetype in the holographic architecture, which is the source of energy used to currently distort women and the female principle on this planet today. Tiamat was a planet in our solar system that exploded into bits and is congealed in a false phantom body. Tiamat was the ancient living goddess of the 10th gate in Iran and Iraq when there was an Eden, and she was the living intelligence gatekeeper to the Christ Buddha avatar consciousness matrix. She was exploded into bits by the moon chain lines that used her essence to recreate lunar forces to replicate her female essence into anti-life and reversal formats. The destruction of Tiamat, like a heaven and earth principle living together in perfect harmony, is synonymous with the destruction of sacred marriage, the split in the wall in time, and the shift to patriarchal domination and its electron distortion. The ancient unhealed pain of Tiamat is a part of the construct used as a phantom system to artificially inflict these painful memories and its sexual misery upon the human race. They squirreled parts of her wounded body into the second dimension and used her consciousness to move in and out of underworld time portals. To keep this pain hidden and the female principle enslaved, the controllers keep excessive war and misogyny circulated in the previous areas of Eden, which is the areas of Iraq and Iran. This phantom body is connected to the NRG grid feed line in Stonehenge and is something that holds the Vesica Pisces in harness through this construct which distorts our true sacred spiritual marriage of divine equals. Nibiru, the Anunnaki planet, has used the female planet, Tiamat, post-explosion, as the female balancer to power its artificial machinery which keeps its movement to and with this earth in an artificial orbit. The Leviathan races were systematically evicted from the second dimensional gates and Tiamat. Tiamat, the wounded goddess, is being systematically reclaimed into her wholeness through the solar consciousness of the Aurora Mother. For collective humanity, this event means that the wounded female memories in the elemental emotional body that were trapped in reversal will start to unwind, and second-dimensional emotional healing will happen in ways that were not previously possible. This is occurring on the ascending spiral of the bifurcation of time transpiring on the earth now. Some of the population will leave this earth to complete their spiritual development on another planet, or they will do it here now. The Moloch Battery. As much as people would like to ignore the dark consciousness that exists within satanic force or Luciferian spirit, these forces do have vast implication to human beings on this planet. Therefore, it is wise to seek greater awareness for improved personal discernment. Only if one has clear comprehension and dedication that one's complete spiritual authority is with the eternal light of God in Christ's name and authority. Moloch is a soul-binding entity, an energetic container used in satanic ritual abuse. Many times, Moloch is used in satanic ritual to collect and disperse the human being's vital energies to hierarchies of satanic spirit. When a percentage of the human being's vital force and spiritual energies are collected by satanic spirit, the person is high risk for soul binding, mental fragmentation, dark manipulation, and potential possession. The Moloch is a type of siphoning construct that is used by the moon chain entities as well as satanic force to mark the children of Earth with the Moloch signature as early as possible. Some of the accepted common ways this begins as early as possible is through genital mutilation, such as circumcision. Sometimes a pregnant mother will dedicate her unborn child to the moon in a ritual that feeds Moloch. These are called moon children, of which were rituals started by Aleister Crowley. The purpose of this is to cultivate the children of the earth to feed into the sexual misery program into adulthood, to give up their spiritual sovereignty, to give up their sexual energies towards the continued parasitism of these forces. Moloch is also the entity called upon for accumulating personal wealth in satanic ritual abuse. This entails making a covenant with satanic spirit in order to have use over the collective forces which are attached to the Moloch battery tank, in order to manifest material goods or wealth on one's behalf. This means one is stealing other people's life force in order to use that stolen life force to manifest wealth, power, or status for themselves or for their group. This has been demonstrated in the Bohemian Grove ritual with a mock child sacrifice to the statue of Moloch. This is done because the person or group believes that they are superior, elitist, that they are rulers. They do not want to do the work to generate that life force on one's own personal merit or character ethics. When you make a covenant with satanics, you are binding yourself to feed energies to that entity in exchange for a material good or other earthly temporary privilege. There is always, eventually, a consequence of great pain and soul suffering. The deal one may make is to give up your child, to sell your soul, in that one gives away their sovereignty to the entity who feeds off of their life force. In Africa, there are black magicians who steal orphan children and kill them at the site of one's business in order to accumulate wealth for the business owner. Where did the belief that if one kills a child, they will receive personal wealth originate? This is a Moloch mind control program to set up blood and sexual sacrifice of the children on this earth. When one is allowing consent to the authority of satanic or Luciferian spirit, the God and Christ force will not interfere with your choice until you choose to renounce that authority. Moloch is defined as both the receptacle battery tank and the quality of collected satanic force. It intentionally promotes sexual predators that perpetrate the use of victim-victimizer software in any form of violence and abuse, especially sexual abuse focused upon the soul capture of children. This is why one can observe with common sense that pedophiles, child pornographers, and sexual abusers are hidden amongst the power elite and do not get any real jail time unless there is a huge media frenzy. This program starts at childhood and remains as an attached Moloch software that can infect multidimensional bodies, especially with genital implants, a device that takes sexual energy into adulthood. In the United Kingdom, over the years, it was observed a high degree of genital implants, such as uterine brands, in girls and women. The purpose of this etheric uterine brand was to commandeer the uterus ownership away from the female and give it to the entities and humans who access and use the Moloch battery tank to stay in power. A child that is infected with Moloch will grow into adulthood and in high probability exchange roles from the victim to the victimizer to keep perpetuating the Moloch cycle of the sexual energy capture program. Various levels of child abuse will exacerbate the perversion of addiction into the Moloch program and into adulthood. The Moloch abuse directly results in sexual misery programming, where the child's sexual confusion, gender confusion, marital confusion, deviant fetishes, traumatizes the emotional body. Therefore, this traumatizes the soul, propagating abusive types of relationships, interpersonal and intimate, based on these learned patterns of dysfunction and abuse. The Moloch worship mind control is related to the moon chain lineages that are karmically responsible for the sexual misery programs which have stolen sacred marriage, sexuality, away from the general population of Earth. This has been greatly accomplished through the energy network by promoting hatred, guilt, and shame upon all matters related to sexuality, as well as promoting addiction-related sexual release while being fully disconnected from the sexual partners and treating them as objects. Satanics and Luciferians are well aware. Who controls the mind controls the soul. By starting sexual trauma as young as possible, they hope to fragment the mind as well as the soul. When a person is sexually traumatized, it is the worst damage one can commit to the soul, and that act alone can fragment the personality into schizoid disorders. When this occurs, the satanic entity can bind or use the person much more easily, and so the goal of sexual torture is mental fragmentation as well as soul fragmentation. CIA programs test the use of sexual domination or torture, such as in MK Ultra and Monarch programs, using orgasm as a form of mind control, as they are well aware of the power over the individual body and collective humanity to controlled subservience lies through acts of sexual abuse and sexual reward. At this time, when and if this resonates with you, we can reclaim sexual parts as well as recognize levels of trauma committed to our innocence, especially through sexual experiences. If this feels complete for you personally, then this is an impact you may observe more in the world around you, and you may be called upon to help release Moloch programs. Some suggested tools. Number 1, resign from the Moloch matrix. Number 2, Consecrate your genitals as holy objects dedicated to the purposes of God and Christ. Number 3, practice conscious, loving sexual acts and be loving and appreciative of your genitals. Number 4, bless all children as children of God, claimed in the Christ or crystal star. Number 5, clear all implants or structures you become aware of on your genitals or sacral areas. Number 6, send all beings bound to Moloch in satanic ritual abuse to Mother's Aqua Portal. Set up the portal for this specific reason. Even though this is very difficult material, this shift to reveal the Moloch is very optimistic in that the structures of energetic containment are being revealed to us, and so that they can be dismantled from use. This is extremely positive news for humanity. This is a longer-term project to stimulate self-awareness, so allow this information to settle. At your own pace, be gentle with your heart. Do not feel pressurized. This is provided for your discernment if it indeed becomes relevant in your life. Healing inner violence. No partner or casual relationship that one has intimate relations with, either sexual or platonic, is accidental or by chance. We are ending casual relationships. All relationships will be first and foremost about personal transformation and spiritual development. Relationships that have been entered into with a basis of deception or pathology, such as addiction, fantasy, or sexual misery, using archetypes like princess code, hero or savior, tyrant king, and ice queen, these relationships will crumble hard and fast. We are being taught to move away from destructive archetypes that play mind games and delude our perception between our intimate relations and sexuality. Once it is realized that all relationships are about spiritual growth through applied life lessons, you can participate with that comprehension in order to easily graduate to the next level. Apply non-attachment and unconditional forgiveness in your relationships, and this will allow you to skip the harder, more painful lessons. Eventually, through balanced self-mastery, one will have access to create the most loving, spiritual marriage you could imagine. This year, we have the possibility, and this will continue to grow stronger as more of us wake up and remember to live our divine purpose and truly love again. Take steps to clear and heal your emotional state, as well as your mind, body, and spirit. When you recognize inner pain or inner violence towards yourself or others, inquire on the nature and source of that pain or fear. Continue to develop a skill set to transcend pain and fear by improving communication skills and lifestyle habits. We have a bevy of free tools here in energetic synthesis to help with that process. When these skills are mastered as a way of everyday life, they are much easier to apply in your relationships with your husband, wife, or partner, your boyfriend or girlfriend, or within the alchemical unions. Some changes that are unique in these type of Christos-based partnerships extend further to extremely deep transparency, honesty, and intuitive knowing in the evolving dynamics of the relationship. This new type of Christos-based relationship is ever evolving and peacefully ever loving. Birthing the Solar Sacrum. The second internal layer of our tree of life is the elemental emotional body, which operates as the instinctual layer of the ego, which generally remains hidden in the unconscious mind. The first part of our spiritual healing is to be willing to pay attention to the emotional and sexual drives and one's motivations through dedicated self-awareness. The second layer is directly impacted by the first layer to the degree the painful memory is experienced in the person's hard drive. For more information, do listen to last month's newsletter. This second layer could be called the pain body. It is the location where unresolved pain memories will manifest as instinctual drives within the person's ego. If the first dimensional storage memories are not identified or cleared, the pain of these memories create walls of separation in the second dimensional layer as a pain body. The pain body further creates walls of separation which manifest in the ego as 7 primary mental and emotional states. These walls of separation isolate the ego self in the person, and as the person identifies with that ego state, they become disconnected from their inner spirit. This disconnection from the inner spirit creates a wall where another part of the ego identity may split off and may hide itself from experiencing pain. This identity could have been created when one is a baby, a 6-year-old child, a teenager or adult, or even in other timelines. This phenomena is called ego subpersonalities. The goal of our spirit is to find and locate those subpersonalities, to heal them, reclaim them as children of God, so that the spiritual light can be reintegrated and brought back into wholeness. We have compiled a chart that may be helpful to identify and participate with the reconfiguration transpiring throughout this year in one's sacral sexual centers. Intend and ask Holy Christos of the Golden Ray to help heal all the walls of separation in one second-dimensional, elemental emotional body, and to bring the sexual sacral areas into balance with unified, loving patterns of inner sacred marriage. Our grounding ray for sacred marriage is merging with the 14-dimensional Rishik sun and the 8th-dimensional gold ray. Our balancing archetype for sacred marriage is the sovereign son and daughter. The negative archetype to clear in the blocked sacral chakra is martyr and scapegoat. The negative archetype to clear in a too open sacral chakra is an addict, fanatic, or seducer. Our unified pattern goal is to build a strong core self-identity with emotional competency, letting go in harmony with relationships and sexuality. The fear thought forms to clear are codependent relationships, addictions, betrayals, fears of abandonment, rejection, guilt or shame, or sexual confusion. To bring the positive polarity of love thought forms into focus, focus on healthy relationships, creativity, loving connections, acceptance of yourself and others, and developing sexual clarity. The second dimensional main unconscious areas of pain are: number 1, unworthiness; number 2, shame and guilt; number 3, lack of trust or self-doubt; number 4, betrayal and abandonment; number 5, anger and rage; number 6, fear; and number 7, entrapment or enslavement. For additional tools on developing practical communication skills to help enlighten current relationships into Christos heart-based relationships, this week's blog may be supportive in the sacral center shifting to evolve our behaviors within our intimate relationships. You may want to see the blog Christic Relationships on our website. This year, our consciousness will be focusing on reclaiming the radiant light for the birth of the Solar Sacrum Center as a God-sovereign free being. Be very gentle with your heart and gentle with others, as this sacral center reconfiguration will rock our world around the cosmic clock. Congratulations to our Ascension families and to all a very happy New Year. Until next, stay in the luminosity of your avatar, Christos heart, and be kind to yourself and each other. Signing off until next month.